bluebird. I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird.
Join me in welcoming Ben Raould, an Iowa master naturalist who's going to speak to us about his experience monitoring and fledging bluebirds at Kent Park in Tiffin, Iowa.
You may have seen him helping with bird banding at Kent Park, but what you might not have seen is Ben when he's working with the bluebirds at Kent Park. He volunteers many hours monitoring the bluebird boxes for quite a few years now. And tonight, Ben is going to share some insights, some highlights, and stories for us about bluebirds. And while he goes along in his talk, if you have a question, he wants you just to unmute and ask away instead of using the chat. So just, he says, go ahead and interrupt him if you have a question. We will have some time for questions at the end as well. So with that, I give you to Ben. So
Thank
Ben,
you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on the program tonight. I'm not a very good presenter, so I want to warn you, this is more of a reading than a presentation. I'm going to be reading most of my stuff here tonight. So I'm going to try to share my screen.
There you
go. This will be my 9th season of monitoring the Bluebird Trail at FW Kent Park in Johnson County. And when I volunteered back in 2016, I knew nothing about bluebirds or bluebird nest boxes or how to monitor them. But the naturalist out there, Kristen Morrow, trusted me, and she printed out some basic information and instructions. And I started visiting the boxes once a week. I would write down what I found, and then I would go home and Google the issues that came up. So I did a whole lot of Googling that first year. One website that I visited a whole lot was Cialis. The name comes from the scientific name for the eastern bluebird, Cialia cialis. And the site is run by a woman from Connecticut who monitors about 100 bluebird boxes and is on the board of directors of the North American Bluebird Society. And just about any bluebird topic that you Google, you will get a hit on this website. It is just a fountain of information. So, and of course, NABS itself, the North American Bluebird Society, has a lot of information on its website. The Iowa Department of Natural Resources also has a lot of information. And I think probably most of the conservation departments in the country have information to help bluebirders and help them monitor these bluebird nest boxes. So the Kent Park Trail has been around a long time. And when I started, there were 17 boxes of various different vintages. And the seasonal naturalists had been monitoring the trail for years out there. The boxes were old, and many of them had what looked like just a big pile of moss for roofs. The moss had taken over and eaten up the wood, and they were cracked and leaking. And so some of the boxes were in bad shape. But I learned very quickly, though, how much those old boxes were in demand by bluebirds and by animals other than bluebirds. For example, one of the first things I learned was that first comes sticks and then comes house wren eggs. And I thought, well, gee, those are cute little eggs and cute little birds. So I started keeping track of how many house wrens I fledged on the Bluebird Trail at Kent Park. And here are my stats for the first 3 years. As you can see, after I took over the trail, the house wren fledges increased substantially. And I didn't know what to think of that. I thought, well, it's a bluebird trail, but I've got a lot of wrens out here. And by the 3rd season, as you can see, I was fledging more house wrens than bluebirds. Another problem was mice, and they're deer mice. So they're nocturnal, and I would always catch them sleeping in the boxes when I opened the boxes during the day. Many times they would return to the box immediately after I evicted them, and I was sure that they were preventing bluebirds from nesting. The middle picture shows, you can see one of the berry baskets that I tried out for a while. This is a neat idea for the square bottom type of box that I was using at the time. I could pull the basket out and get a good look at what was in the nest and then just slide it back in the box. It was really neat. But the problem was that the mice would chew the baskets to pieces. So I didn't know what to do. Now, of course, I have all Peterson boxes, which are kind of a V shape on the bottom. They don't have a square bottom. So the baskets don't fit in those boxes anymore. Now, I have, this is one of my favorite videos from my first 3 years. You have to wait for it here a little bit. I think this mouse was preparing to meet his maker. He didn't expect the wall to open up like that. But of course, I didn't know at the time that those stovepipe predator guards under the boxes, like you can see here, needed to have a mouse guard installed inside of them. So this is a picture of one of those mouse guards. It's just made out of hardware cloth, and you slide it up underneath that predator guard. This one has some dead bumblebees on it, which I sometimes see in the fall when I pull the boxes off of the posts. They like to go in there when it's time for them to die. So I now have a mouse meets bluebird story. One year, I found a mouse nest with a mouse in it, sleeping on top of 4 bluebird eggs in one of the boxes. I removed the mouse nest and chased off the mouse and left the 4 eggs in the box, although I doubted that the female bluebird would return to that box. But the following week, I found a female bluebird incubating 5 eggs in that box. The mother bluebird had returned to the box and laid another egg. All 5 eggs hatched, and all 5 chicks fledged out of that box. Now that made me wonder. I thought that was fascinating, and it made me wonder if that bluebird and that mouse, maybe that was meant to be. Maybe they were actually a couple sharing that box, and what could possibly come from such a pairing. So I Googled some things, and I did some research, and this is what I came up with. Now, of course, probably from now on, you won't believe a word I tell you about. This is the only joke I'm going to play on you. This is, I actually created this using AI. I asked AI to create an image of what a cross between a bluebird and a deer mouse would look like. So, but some monitors, I don't think they worry about ants. They say the bluebirds just eat them, but I think ants can disturb nestlings. For a couple of years now, when I first find ants in a box, I put a narrow band of white lithium grease around the post. The ants won't cross this, but I have to trim back the vegetation around the post so that the ants don't have any bridges over the grease. Usually, if I do this right, the next week, there are no ants in the box. And if there were ant eggs in the box, like you just saw, those are gone too. So this is fascinating to me, because I think when I put that barrier of grease on the post, I cut off the food supply to the colony. Then they have to leave the box. But how do they do it? I think they take their eggs and jump. And I like to think that they're just fine because I like ants too. And I don't, I know I read that some ants can jump from trees and still live. So I told the naturalists at Kent Park, I thought this whole thing would make an excellent plot for an animated Disney movie, but I haven't heard back from them yet about that. So now, all bluebird monitors have had this experience. They find a nest, this is a bluebird nest like this, that the week before held eggs or nestlings. They're just not there. There's nothing. Now, sometimes you find evidence under the box that a house wren or a house sparrow has raided the box. And this one is especially smashed, this bluebird egg. But usually when a wren pierces a bluebird egg, there's just one little tiny hole that they peck in the side of the egg, of the shell, just big enough for the wren to get its beak in there and then pitch that egg out of the nest. And you find them under the box on the ground. So just imagine that wren picking up that egg and throwing it out of the box. But it's not uncommon, though, to have what we call a mysterious disappearance of eggs or chicks. There's no evidence of what has happened. But one day, it wasn't so mysterious. This fox snake was probably about 30 inches long. And when I looked in the box the week before, there were 5 tree swallow eggs in there. I don't know whether the snake ate the eggs or the chicks, but as I understand it, it doesn't matter to a fox snake. They will eat either one. And I noticed that when the snake left the box, I didn't see any big bulges in the snake, which would, I would think there would be if they had just eaten eggs or chicks. So for all I know, that snake was sitting in there for a week digesting its meal. I don't really know. But once, again, this was before I learned how to use a mouse guard. A mouse guard, I think, will keep out most snakes as well as mice. But I think that really this snake might have been able to go up the outside of the predator guard if it wanted to. It was that long. So, and I think that snakes are the cause of most, if not all, of my mysterious disappearances out there.
So Ben,
Yeah.
this is Sandy, and do you have to physically remove mice, snakes, or whatever, or?
Yes. And
Okay.
when I used to get mice, and I don't get many anymore with my mouse guards in there, but there used to be just a ball of grass in there, and it's not a nest. You can tell it's not a bird nest. You can tell right away it's a mouse nest. So I would poke my finger in there, and many times I would feel this nice warm little body of a mouse inside the box, you know. So then I would start to pull the stuff out of the box, and then the mouse would see me, and they flew out of there like a rocket. They just jumped out of the box. The snake, I've only found one snake in a box. And as you could see from that video, he or she left on their own. They decided to come out and go down. But yes, I have to pull that stuff out of there. And yeah, it wasn't until my 4th season out there that I learned about the threat of gnats, also known as buffalo gnats or black flies. They can kill nestlings by biting them, or some say by crawling into their nostrils and suffocating them. So I'm lucky that I don't seem to get a lot of gnats out at Kent Park. Though one year I found my first 5 bluebird nestlings of the year dead in the nest. And I think it was from gnats, because they had little red marks all over their bodies. And I think they just killed them. Now, thanks to getting on Jim Walter's mailing list, I learned that to treat the boxes that have young nestlings with Absorbine Junior, of all things, and I have not lost any bluebirds to gnats since that time. To avoid getting the Absorbine, it comes in a spray bottle, but I don't spray it on the box, I pour it in a jar, and then I use a paintbrush to paint it around the door cracks, the entrance hole, and the vent holes. And I know that there are a lot of other repellents that bluebirders use, but this seems to keep the gnats away from the boxes, you know. So I've been very lucky not to lose any more birds to gnats. So, and one year I had mites. I lost a nest full of tree swallows to mites. Tree swallows are known to carry mites into the box with the feathers that they use to build their nests. I read that some people think the mites kill the chicks, and some people believe that the mites keep the parents away from the box so that the chicks starve. Now, I couldn't tell in my case what, but there were 4 or 5 or more dead tree swallows in that box, and it was just flooded with, it was just infected with mites. I cleaned that box out and I sprayed it for 2 consecutive weeks with a bleach solution, but the mites were still in the box, and they would just flood out of that box onto my hands when I opened it. Finally, I applied diatomaceous earth. You may have heard of that. That's an insecticide, and that worked. Again, I know that there are other insecticides that work. So, and that's only had one experience with mites out there. As far as wasps are concerned, I try to follow Jim Walter's advice. He says, if you don't rile them up, they're no problem. Well, tell that to the 2 that have stung me over the years. Twice I've been stung by wasps. And if they get real bad, I have found that a spray bottle filled with water and some Dawn dishwashing liquid will actually kill wasps. I don't like to do that because I also like wasps, but if they get real feisty, I can shoot them out of the air with a spray bottle, and then look and see what's in the box. Some trespassers are completely harmless and welcome. I'm also very lucky that we just don't get many house sparrows at Kent Park. For some bluebird trails, they are just wicked. They are just raise all kinds of problems for bluebirders. One year though, I did remove some sparrow eggs from one of the boxes, and the next week I found that the next box down the road had been raided, and the bluebird eggs had been thrown out. Now, it could have been a wren, of course, but I think it was an angry house sparrow that was taking revenge on me, because I read an article about house sparrows that raided long stretches of bluebird trails because they had been evicted from one of the boxes. They took revenge on the other boxes. So tree swallows are welcome in my boxes, and their nests start out looking like a bluebird nest, and they sometimes fool me, but then they line their nests with the feathers of other birds, and you just can't mistake a tree swallow nest once they've got their feathers in there. It can make it difficult to count their eggs and their chicks because the feathers get in the road. But the females are also known for refusing to leave the nest when you open the box. And sometimes you just can't. I can pat them on the back with one of my fingers, and they still sit in their eggs. And I don't like to chase them out of there for fear that they're going to wreck one of their own eggs when they fly out of there, you know. So usually I just close the box back up, and I come back next week and hope they're not in the nest, and then I can count their eggs. But black-capped chickadees are also welcome, but you can't mistake their nests. They start with a base of green moss and other rough material, and then they line the nest with soft material. And this, I know that what you're looking at there is rabbit fur. I can just tell that it's, and they use other soft materials, but usually animal fur. When you open the box, it looks like just a pile of fur. And that's because when there are eggs in the nest and the female leaves the nest, she covers the eggs with animal fur. To count the eggs, then you have to move that fur to one side. And I checked and determined that it was okay if I did it very carefully, move that fur to one side, count the eggs, and then be sure to cover them back up before I close the box. So in the first 2 years, I replaced those roofs on almost all of the boxes. And I think those old boxes worked just fine. The bluebirds didn't mind that the boxes were old. This is on the right there. There's one mom looking out of the box saying, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Anyway, so so I had good luck in the old square boxes, which is what these were. Here's another one of my favorite videos. This old box had hardware cloth fastened on the inside of the door, and I think that it was helping these chicks climb up and look out of the box. When I first saw this in one of my boxes, I thought that a small chicken was nesting in my box. No, really, I'd already read that 4 to 5% of bluebirds lay white eggs, and they're just gorgeous. I think that I've had 6 white egg layers since I started monitoring out there. Back when I was still raising wrens, I once had a premature fledge experience. I knew that there were wrens in the box, wren nestlings. When I opened the box, 8 baby wrens flew into my face, and they all fell into the surrounding prairie grass. So I was distraught. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't have found them, much less have gotten them back into the box. So after that, I started using a borescope that I bought on Amazon. It connects by Wi-Fi to my cell phone. The pictures are very low quality, but they serve the purpose well. On the left, there's bluebird chicks with their mouths wide open. In the middle, I think that's a wren. And on the right side is a baby bluebird in the nest. And when the chicks have been in the nest for more than a week, I don't open the box. I just use the borescope to see if they're still in the box or still moving. It was a puzzle to me at first. How do I figure out when those birds are gone or when to open the box? Because when they're gone, you don't know that they're gone. So, but that's what this borescope does. Tells me if the birds are still in there or if it's what I call a fledge nest. So I eventually came to realize that most of the park's boxes were not in ideal locations. In 2019, I first met Jim Walters, who was staffing a table at the Eagle Watch. I told him about my experiences, and we talked about how the Kent Park Trail might be improved. Jim told me that he had helped set up that trail originally, but I think what happened is that over the years, the park changed. There were trees and underbrush where there had been none before, and trees and underbrush are the enemies of bluebird boxes because that's where the wrens are. I think some of the boxes had been moved out of the way to make mowing easier. Also, I had to walk into tall grass prairie to get to several of the boxes. And as Jim said, that's where the snakes are. So it's all location, location, location. Jim and I talked and met with Kent Park officials, and they gave us permission to go ahead and make some changes to the trail. One day it took Jim and I about 4 hours to move 8 of the old boxes to new locations and to install 7 new Peterson boxes that were built and donated by Jim Walters. We also installed mouse guards on all the boxes. Jim did most of the work. Basically, I handed him tools, and I was absolutely fascinated by the precise scientific method that Jim used that day to select the location of the boxes. We drove around the park in Jim's pickup truck, and Jim said, "Here would be a good place." And he'd point and say, over there, that looks a little renny. So it was just fascinating. He just knew instinctively where those boxes belonged. The day after that renovation, I heard from the naturalists, they had already seen bluebirds on some of the new boxes that we put up. So now, we now had 25 boxes, and most of them were near the road, which made them much easier to monitor, and they were in the right locations. We had moved the boxes largely out of wren territory, so the wren competition was greatly reduced. And I actually had no mysterious disappearances that season. The only mice I had were in boxes where the mouse guards had fallen down the post. So here are my stats for the year 2019. That's the year of that we made that renovation. I was still raising house wrens, but we had fledged 119 bluebirds and 19 house wrens. So I continued to learn new things, and I can still remember the day that Jim Walters told me, Ben, you can either have a bluebird trail or a house wren trail. It's up to you, he said. Well, for the next 2 years, I did not fledge any house wrens at Kent Park because I did not allow the wrens to keep those boxes. They were not permitted in my bluebird boxes anymore. It was the year before last that I had the first 6 egg clutches I had ever seen. In this nest, the following week, I had 5 chicks and 1 egg, as you can see there. And I don't like to see eggs and chicks in the same nest because of in my experience, that means that the eggs might not be viable. In this nest, the chicks were very young, so there was still a chance that the last egg would hatch, but it didn't. So only 5 nestlings fledged from this nest. I had 3 more 6 egg clutches. In 2 of those cases, all 6 birds fledged. In the other one of the 6 eggs did not hatch. So I read somewhere that some female bluebirds will lay their eggs in the nests of other bluebirds. And it makes me wonder whether the eggs that didn't hatch might have been the infertile eggs of other females. They came by and they put that 6th egg in that box. I had a couple more 6 egg nests last year. In one of them, all 6 eggs hatched. In the other one, only 5 eggs hatched. So it's still puzzling to me why that happens. But sometimes bluebirds just don't appreciate what you do for them, what you're trying to do for them anyway. Now, all bluebirders have been dive bombed by angry bluebirds. Not all bluebirds do this, but the season before last, I had an especially aggressive parent. I think it's the mother in one of my boxes. She would dive bomb me like this almost every time I opened the box. I call this the dive bomber mystery because this behavior, believe it or not, spanned a total of about 3 months. On April 16th, I find 2 bluebird eggs in this box. The following week, April 24th, there are 5 eggs. I figured since a bluebird lays 1 egg a day, the last egg must have been laid on April 18th or 19th. And since incubation starts the day the last egg is laid and typically lasts 12 to 14 days, the egg should hatch as early as April 29th or as late as May 2nd. So these are computations that I do when I find when I find 1 or 2 eggs in a box. I make these computations to figure out when I find, I should say, this is the information I use to compute when those eggs are going to hatch. But the next week on April 30th, there are still 5 eggs in this box. The parent is in a nearby tree, so the eggs should hatch soon, I figured. But the following week, there are still 5 eggs. Could they be infertile? Or, but the parent dive bombed me, as you've seen. I'm going to start that again. I think they must be viable. So the following week on May 14th, there are still 5 eggs. The parent is dive bombing me, so I think the eggs must be viable. Another week goes by, May 21. There are still 5 eggs. The parent is dive bombing me. I leave the eggs. Another week goes by, on May 28th, there are still 5 eggs. The parent dive bombs me. The eggs should have hatched at least 26 days ago, but the parent is still dive bombing me, and I can't bring myself to take the eggs out of the box, thinking that she must know something that I don't. So another week goes by, June 4th, I find 3 bluebird chicks and 1 bluebird egg in the nest. How did that happen? Why did it take so long? And where is the other egg? Another week goes by. On June 11th, I find an empty bluebird nest. No chicks, no eggs. There's nothing under the box. They were too young to fledge. So it's a mysterious disappearance. So I pull the nest out of the box, and this is what I find. There was a bluebird nest on top of a bluebird nest, but I couldn't tell because they were joined so seamlessly. The nest must have been taller, but I missed that. So at some point during the time I was looking at this box, I believe 5 bluebird eggs disappeared and were replaced by 5 new bluebird eggs in a new nest on top of the old ones, on top of the old one. 3 of the new eggs then hatched. Then the remaining, the hatchling and remaining egg all disappeared. I had another mysterious disappearance in that same nest. But the tale doesn't end here, if you'll bear with me. 1 week later, on June 18th, I found a brand new bluebird nest with 5 eggs in this box. So in 1 week, this bluebird built a brand new nest and laid 5 eggs. She must have started right away that week. And it was a very short nest compared to most bluebird nests. And I was again dive bombed by a bluebird. I can't prove it, but based on that bird's behavior, and they all have different personalities, I think it was the same bird. The following week, the eggs were still in the box and I was dive bombed. The week later, on July 2nd, 3 of the bluebird eggs have hatched and I can't see the other 2 eggs. A week goes by, and on July 9th, there were 3 pretty large chicks in the box. Another week goes by, and on July 16, most of the bluebird nest had been removed from the box, and there was an almost completed wren nest on top of it. I think I tell you, the tragedy that you have to go through to monitor these bluebirds boxes. I think the 3 bluebird chicks had time to fledge, though, before the wren took possession. So over a period of 3 months, from April 16th to July 16th, there were 15 bluebird eggs in this box. And from those 15 eggs, 3 nestlings fledged. I tell you, it's a tough world out there for the bluebirds. Once again, I can't prove it, although I know that bluebirds can have 3 broods a year. So the same bluebird can lay 15 eggs in one season. And I think that it was all the work of one brave mother bluebird. So that's just my opinion, though. So I can't prove it. Anyway, I added those 3 fledges to my total that year. And here are my stats for the years 2020 through 2023. This chart doesn't show it, but in 2020, we had, in addition to the 138 bluebirds, we fledged 10 tree swallows. That was a great year. In 2021, we only had 53 bluebirds. And in addition to that, we fledged 2 tree swallows and 4 black-capped chickadees. In 2021, it was a bad year. And as you know, some bluebirds spend the winter here. According to the DNR, about 1/3 stay in Iowa and the rest migrate south. So 2/3 of our bluebirds are going south. And I read a couple of articles that stated that thousands of eastern bluebirds died in the winter storms of 2020 and 21 in southern states. So I think that might be the cause for our low numbers in 2021. And that the loss may have carried over into 2022 as well. In 2022, I started raising wrens again. We have 2 boxes on what's called the Conservation Education Center Trail. We were having a lot of house wren competition there. So in mid-season, I asked if I could move those boxes, but the naturalists said they would prefer I leave the boxes there for educational purposes. So I stopped evicting the house wrens from those boxes so there could be some birds for people to see. In addition to the 119 bluebirds, we fledged 4 tree swallows and 6 house wrens in 2022. In 2023, last year, if I'd had one less mysterious disappearance, I would have broken my record. We fledged 134 bluebirds. In addition to the bluebirds, we fledged 16 tree swallows and 6 black-capped chickadees, which for me are both personal records. Now, as far as wrens are concerned, the bluebirds were in charge last year. They used those boxes on the CEC trail, and the wrens never got in there. So I didn't have any wrens. The bluebirds dealt with the wrens by themselves last year. So I have a couple more videos if we have time. And the first one is of a very brave bluebird mom who refused to let me count her eggs one year. Now, I'm only a couple of feet away from this bluebird with my cell phone, and she is saying, "No way, I'm not leaving this nest. You are not going to count my eggs. What are you doing here, old man? Get away." When I pan back here, if you look closely, you can see her bright blue egg underneath her breast. They're just a peek of it, you know. They are so brave. So in this case, I just close the box up, I go away, and hope that I catch the next time I come back, she's not on her nest. So the second video is a video of the black-capped chickadees that we fledged last year. See if you agree with me that they all need a haircut. Just look at that dew on those. Look at those eyes. And they spoke to me individually that day. But then they finally decided to all holler at me at once. But they are so sweet. Finally, I want to show you a picture that was taken at Kent Park and given to me by the photographer, my friend Diane Zumbaugh. And I'm so proud of this picture because I'm sure it's some of my birds. After leaving the nest, young bluebirds stay nearby for about 3 weeks, and the parents continue to feed them. And I think this bluebird is saying to the father, to his father, "Am I blue? Am I blue? Ain't these tears in my eyes telling you, give me some food?" he's saying. So this is my thank you card. These people are what I call my team out at Kent Park. They are so supportive. Jim Walters continued to donate new boxes to the park, and now all of the old boxes at Kent Park have been replaced with new Peterson boxes. And very soon now, I expect to get an email from one or both of the rangers out there. One of the boxes is permanently on its post out there. I can't remove it because it's attached to the post, and it's right near the entrance to the park, across the parking lot from the ranger station and the offices. And those rangers come out of that parking lot and they see a bluebird and they email me and they say, Ben, there's bluebirds going in and out of box 1. So then if I don't have my boxes out by then I hurry up and get the boxes out. But so I just have a whole lot of support and a great team to work with. So, and that's all I have. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. So I think I stopped sharing now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That was just delightful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's a delight to work with those birds out there. They're fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Say, Ben, I've got a question. I've heard other people say that the Eurasian tree sparrows would take over bluebird boxes, but you don't seem to have run into that.
No, I've never seen one of them out there, but I have heard that too.
Yeah.
That they must be eastern bluebirds are cavity nesters. They call them secondary cavity nesters. They can't excavate their own cavities. That's why they call them secondary. They have to use a leftover woodpecker hole, basically. And you can imagine what's happened to leftover woodpecker holes over the decades. They've been removed, so the habitat has gone away, and that's why bluebirds have been in trouble, for so long. But that's why there are thousands of nerds like me out there putting up bluebird boxes to try and save the bluebird, and it has worked. They're back, they're not endangered, they're not threatened. So yeah, but the Eurasian tree sparrow must then be a cavity nester in order for them to, or probably would be.
I don't know if Mark Madson's here tonight, but I think he's the one that told me that
Yeah.
he must monitor some, and that Mark seemed to have developed a distinct, quiet but pervasive dislike of Eurasian tree sparrows.
Because they were bothering the bluebirds.
Oh, I think he was not happy about them.
Yeah.
But you could ask him about that sometime. But I think that's who told me that.
Cheryl. Oh, I
Cheryl will
can't
have
hear
to
you.
unmute herself.
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
I monitor bluebirds at Terry Trueblood.
Wow.
And
Okay.
there were a few bluebirds when I first started about 6-7 years ago. And then a lot of Eurasian tree sparrows moved in, and last year I think we got 2 bluebirds.
Oh,
They
no.
don't yet, the numbers of tree swallows has not gone down, but the number of bluebirds has really plummeted.
Really?
There never
That's-
have been very many at Terry Trueblood, but right now they're in terrible shape. Yeah.
See, I'm so lucky at Kent Park because
Yes.
I've only had house sparrows a couple of years out there, and I think it's all a matter of location. I'm out in the country. Of course, you are out at Terry Trueblood as well.
Well,
but
there's a
they're
lot
building-
of foot traffic there, I think.
Yeah, I think the sparrows like buildings and the town scene more than they do out at Kent Park. So I'm very lucky. Yeah.
So do you think that these Peterson houses are better? Do you think that there's a difference between the different houses?
I
in
think
terms of-
either one of those styles, that square bottom of those old boxes was just fine. But they were in bad shape. They were old, and when Jim Walters offered to give me all those new boxes, I just couldn't turn him down. So now we've got all Peterson boxes, and they do just great. They do great. Yeah.
We do use a different box, and I don't remember the name, but it's a cylinder.
Right.
And maybe, I don't know, I'll talk to Jim about maybe I should try some different boxes there.
That could be, that could be. I think they use those round ones at Waterworks Park
Yes,
as well. And
yes.
they have a lot of tree swallows out there.
Yes.
I don't know how many bluebirds, but
Nothing like what you're getting.
nothing like what I'm getting. Yeah,
No.
it's Kent Park is just it's location, location, location. You know, it's yeah. I'm lucky.
I mean, I'll just add that I have never seen a mouse at Terry Blue Trueblood or Waterworks. I have never seen a bumblebee.
Or a wasp or a
We
bumblebee.
we do get wasps. Yeah, there
Yeah.
are wasps and there are gnats, but a mouse and there are snakes out there too. Yeah, so a lot of that experience of they just disappear. You know, there's eggs one week and the next week they're gone,
Yes,
and
I think
no
that's
sign
what's
of
hitting
disturbance. Yeah.
is snakes. Yeah.
My name's David Curry. I'm a guest here today because Jim Walters let me know that the presentation was going on. I've been monitoring a bluebird trail out at McBride for 20 years now.
Wow.
And there's a couple areas where the bluebirds are still there, but the underbrush has just grown up so much. The wrens are happy to nest there, but I just gave up about 2/3 of the nest. I was monitoring about 20 of them. And only 8 or 9 were being productive. So, and I've talked with the people who try to do the maintenance there to keep things cleared, and they just don't have enough staff to do it. They did some clearing, 5-6 years ago, but they didn't do a follow-up, so it just grew right back. So all that brush is there, and the bluebirds didn't like it. This last year, I had absolutely no tree swallows. Usually,
Really?
tree swallows are very productive, maybe even better than the bluebirds, and I love to see them. But for whatever reason, I didn't see them. You saw quite a few tree swallows this year, did you?
More than ever
Yes.
before. I pledged 16 of them this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
me too.
a lot of tree swallows.
Yeah.
Do you guys remove wren nests like I do? I mean,
Yes.
You bet.
pull them out of the boxes. Yeah.
You bet. Right. If they hatch, if I don't get out there religiously every week, it's more like every 10 days. So if
Yeah.
they actually manage to hatch out, I won't bother them. But if they're just
Yeah.
eggs, I want them out of there.
Yeah.
Because they just keep coming back. And then, as you say, I'm sure they're the ones who clear out a lot of the eggs that the bluebirds are there one week and then they're absolutely gone the
Yeah.
next week.
That's what happens. That's my biggest threat at Kent Park is the house wrens. It's not the
Yeah.
sparrows. It's not the snakes. It's not the mice. It's the house wrens that
Yeah.
we battle over those boxes out there. Yeah.
Even when I don't see any bluebirds fledge out, I'm having a nice walk in the country. So there's a benefit to going out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I keep track of when the wildflowers are blooming, and
Cool.
there's blackberries and black raspberries out there too that pay me for a couple of weeks I can harvest those.
So where's the trail out there?
Well, there's one prairie that they have been keeping down by that's the first shelter there, open shelter where they have the School of the Wild with the school kids. The first thing you come to, so that's where things are productive. And then you go past the Raptor Center of the parking lot, and then you just hike straight out. They used to have some osprey nests there, that long time ago. So there's a couple loops going out further, but and they've actually, Jim and I were out there last spring, and we put up 4 extra boxes, and some of those had eggs in them the very next week. So yeah, he's got a good sense of where the bluebirds are going to want to
Yeah.
make a nest.
Yeah, he sure does. And
Yes.
they like open spaces. That's why they do well on golf courses and
Right.
things like that. And but when I took over the trail out there, those boxes had been backed up against the fence lines and up against the tree lines. And I think it was partially because the maintenance people, the mowers out there, got tired of those dumb boxes being
Right.
the way they pulled them up and moved them out of the way, and they
Right.
moved right into Wren territory, you know. So plus a lot of new trees and a lot of new underbrush came up out there. And but that's why it was I'm gratified that I got to have the support of Brad Friedoff and Larry Gullett and those guys out there that let Jim and I move those boxes back out in the open like that. And
Right.
and they are a mowing hazard, a mowing obstacle, if you know what I mean. Sometimes.
Sure.
Late at night when the wind is still, I'll come flying through your door, and you'll know what love is for. I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, yeah, yeah, yeah. Touch your lips with a magic kiss, and you'll be a bluebird too. And you'll know what love can do. I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, I'm a bluebird, yeah, yeah, yeah. Bluebird, fly away through the midnight air as we head across the sea. And at last we will be free. You're a bluebird, you're a bluebird, you're a bluebird, you're a bluebird, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're a bluebird, you're a bluebird, you're a bluebird, yeah, yeah, yeah. Bluebird. All alone on a desert island, we're living in a tree.